All right, so let's do a chapter 10 test review. This way you will know things to focus on. This is just an overall general view. You will need to know all of your material. Remember, you will be allowed to have one paper of a little cheat sheet that you can use for your test. Make sure you study well though, and you're not relying just on that sheet. So we talked about sound and how our ear plays a huge part in collecting sound. We talked about the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The outer ear gathers the sound, passes it through the ear canal, reaches the eardrum, which is a membrane that causes vibrations. It will pass the vibrations to your middle ear, which has the three little bones: hammer, anvil, and stirrup. Remember, has. And the middle ear will amplify the sound in order for the inner ear to take the sound through the auditory nerve to be processed through nerve impulses to the brain so that the brain can decipher the sound. There is something called a cochlea, which we said was in your inner ear. This is the one that is filled with tiny hair cells. Remember, they're not actual hairs, but they are tiny hair cells that if they get damaged, they actually cannot regrow. And it can be damaged from loud sounds that are abrupt or periodic loud sounds that can be damaging as well. We talked about loudness, which is the way that brain perceives the intensity of sound. We talked about frequency, which is the amount of sound energy that flows through a given area in a given time. And we talked about pitch, the highness or lowness of a sound. We talked about ultrasonic waves, which is the sounds with frequencies above 20,000 hertz. We talked about the Doppler effect, which is a change in pitch of a sound caused by a motion of either the sound source or receiver. Remember, when you have, say if I'm standing on the side of the road, if I have an ambulance approaching me, it's going to have a higher pitch than once it passes me and it's going away from me, it's going to sound lower. And it depends on if the observer is moving or the sound source is moving as well. We talked about sound quality, which is the difference between sounds of the same frequency caused by overtones. So this is when you have a piano and a flute playing the same sound. You're able to differentiate which is coming from which instrument. We talked about music, which is basically a combination of sounds with a specific pattern. They have distinct pitches, while noises, remember, have random patterns and they do not have distinct pitches. We talked about overtones, which is just multiple of fundamental frequency. Fundamental frequency is specific to an object or material. We talked about a resonator, which is pretty much like a hollow space that has air in it that vibrates, that produces a sound. So this can be in instruments such as a wind instrument like a flute, or something like a violin that is in the hollow part of the violin that can amplify the sound when you play the strings. We talked about reverberation, which is not a very pleasant echo. It's like an echo effect that is caused by sound reflections. That's why a lot of orchestra places and a lot of large areas will use curtains, which they found out absorbs these reverberations in order to prevent this echo effect. And then acoustics is the study of sound. We talked about echolocation, which is used by dolphins and bats. This is when you are able to find objects by emitting a sound and then interpreting the waves that get reflected back from the sound that once it has hit an object. So then bats or dolphins can tell how far or near a prey is. We talked about sonar, which is a way for sound to be emitted to locate objects such as those underwater. And then they are able to measure the time it takes back of the reflection of sound waves in order to calculate the distance. And sonar can be used whether in ultrasound to make images. They can be used in to find the bottom. They can be used to map out the ocean floor and things like that. Make sure, like I said, that you are writing all of this down. You might need to pause this video. It's a very short video of what to focus on for the test, but there will be other parts on your notes that you will also need to know for the test as well. So if you want to write those things down, maybe pick out the things that you're having a hard time memorizing in this chapter and write those things down on your cheat sheet so that you can use it on your test. No other material is allowed to be used on the test. If you use anything but your cheat sheet, you will be it will be counted against you. We will not be grading that test, and you will get an automatic 0. All right, good luck.